First two speakers will both be concerned about the environment. So the really first speaker, Yuge Ma, she's a student in School of Geography and the Environment. So she's at Wolfson College, and Yuge has just returned from India, where she has been conducting a field work there. So she'll talk about low carbon governance in India and China. So I'll pass the time to Yuge.
First of all, thank China Oxford Scholarship Fund who have been generously funding my research and study since 2010 after I just finished my study in India. And someone over the tea break just asked me, are you pretending to be someone come from the minor ethnic group because I'm wearing this dress? I just want to express the diversity of culture and diversity of research interests of our civil SF scholars. My research topic, it is an Indian dress. I just come back from India in a field work. And my research topic is comparing China and India in their development of low carbon areas. And today, in today's talk, I would like to first of all bring you to the rich scholarship of China-India comparative studies, and then we're going to position low-carbon development studies in this rich topic. And later I will take energy efficiency as a lens into this broader issue. In the end, we'll briefly discuss about the relationship between low-carbon regulation and China and India's political economy. As we all know that China-India comparative studies have always been catching people's eyes. It has even attracted the brightest minds of our time. In 1982, Amartya Sen published his famous paper, Poverty and Famine. He compared the famine issues in China and India, and he found out that after independence, India had successfully prevented famine when its protected food production was even less than China. He argued that democracy prevents famine because of India's more transparent and responsive political system compared to China under Mao Zedong's rule. In 1980s, China just ended the Cultural Revolution, and the pragmatic leader Deng Xiaoping came to power and launched a series of economic reform to open up the economy. In the same time, India was also cultivating its economic growth opportunities in automobile and high-tech industries. So both countries were waiting for a boom of their economies. This boom came in the 1990s, especially in China after 1992, Deng Xiaoping's Southern China tourist speeches, which unleashed and encouraged the billion population's desire for material goods. And in India, around the same time, in 1991, the government launched the whole package of liberalization reform. Into the 21st century, we have witnessed the emergence of Indian and Chinese economy, as well as India-China comparative studies. New academic stars begin to question that in the new era of growth at any cost, India and China, which one will take over the other? Professor Tyrell Khanna and Professor Yashil Huang from Boston, MIT, and Harvard, their paper called Can India Overtake China, published on the Foreign Policy magazine in 2003, started the new round of China-India comparative studies. People started to question, to look beyond merely the economic data, such as per capita GDP, FDI, and trade, and started to think about how institutions, financial institutions, education, innovation, public distribution institutions to make an influence on China and India's different pathways today. Their paper announced a new round of China-India comparative studies, but later people realized that to guessing which one will take over the other is not that exciting, because the differences of these two countries not only lie in the contemporary institutions, but also in culture and history. Comparing with little knowledge becomes very dangerous. It could be very superficial. And in 2011, Francis Fukuyama, the world's leading political scientist, published his masterpiece, The Origin of Political Order, Volume 1. In this book, he tried to track back China and India's different pathways today back to their ancient history, to China's war over a centralized dynasty in 200 BC, and India's embedded kin, that is, in the tangled network of religious obligations more than 3,000 years ago. And he argued that the different pathways for China and India today have already started as early as the formation of their states. And today we're into the second decade of the 21st century. China-India comparative studies are still one of the most popular research topics. And in the second decade of the 21st century, the emerging area of research lies in the area of low-carbon development. It's because of climate change is considered one of the most threatening challenge of the global sustainability. And for China and India, as we all know, the alarming scale of our population, energy consumption, and carbon emission is too crucial for the global sustainability. When we look at this chart, as we all know that China and India combined account to nearly 40% of the world's population. If we only compare their share in the global economy to their share of the global population, it seems that both countries are still under their potential, especially for India. But if we compare their share in the global energy consumption and their share of the carbon emission to their share of the global economy, the picture is different. In terms of the energy consumption, we see both countries share in the global consumption. Energy consumption is doubled of the global share in the global economy. And in terms of carbon emission, India even triples its share in the global economy, while China is more than doubled. So it's not only about the alarming scale of China and India's energy consumption, carbon emission, it's also because of the disproportionate energy consumption and carbon emission compared to its economy that is imposing the threat to global sustainability, and that lies down the importance of this research. And beside of that, another reason to conduct a comparative research, because we can do country-wise research on this topic, on China and on India, but why do we need to compare these two countries in this topic? It's because these two countries are facing a similar challenge, and at the same time still low-income countries. That is the first time faced by human beings, this challenge. In 2013, British Parliament published a report that saying that Britain has outsourced at least 30% of its carbon emission during the past 20 years, which means the OECD countries, their relatively successful low-carbon transition, their lessons generate limited lessons to China and India, because it's difficult for 40% of the world's population to again outsourcing their energy consumption and carbon emission. And also these two countries are approaching to this same problem from very different pathways. And by comparing these two, we can dig up, we can look into and investigate the crucial factor of low carbon transition in faster growing economies. And in my research, I proposed a comparative framework that is to select similar low-carbon policies which have been adopted by both countries and see how they navigate through different political economy, different institutional architectures, and see how this similar solutions, similar policies have been initiated and passed through the architecture and where they end up with. By doing so, we move up from only comparing the policy results to the complexity and the interesting details of the policy process. This chart briefly illustrates this idea. That's a Chinese temple and a Hindu temple. We see how similar low-carbon policies navigate through this different architecture, and the common background of these groups at any cost. I take energy efficiency as a lens into this, to apply it into this framework, and as a lens into the broader low-carbon issues. It's because, first of all, I was trained as an energy efficiency engineer, so I understand the technology, and also because energy efficiency is considered as a crucial and common solution for low-carbon development of all countries. And both China and India studied energy efficiency around the same time. If we compare the institutional development of China and India, throughout the history, we see that in contemporary discourse, both countries started to think about energy efficiency in 1970s after the second oil crisis. At that time, both countries were facing serious problems of energy shortage and poverty elevation. So energy conservation, energy efficiency were considered by both countries as a solution, as a crucial solution to those challenges. And in the 1980s, both countries formed a central level experts group and to formulate comprehensive policies on energy conservation. In 1990s, with the opening up of the economy, foreign donors came into the picture to help the central government agencies to formulate standards and to raise awareness and to invest in R&D. So we see clearly before 2000 that there was a convergence of energy efficiency institutional development of China and India. Both countries took the approach, a technocratic approach, and it was the central government plus foreign donors, think tanks and research institutions as the main promoter of energy efficiency. And both countries were under similar threats, similar challenges, similar pressure of energy shortage, vulnerability of international energy price, poverty elevation. At that time, climate change was a minor pressure. And after 2000, China joined the WTO in 2001. So economic growth became dependent of the globalization of the economy, made the economic growth the priority of policy agenda. So energy efficiency had to step up. So in the first 5 years of the 21st century, we see there is a stagnation of institutional development of China. And in India, same thing happened in 2001. India passed the Energy Conservation Act and constituted the NODA central government agency in energy efficiency, which is Bureau for Energy Efficiency. But a lot of negotiations, and also because economic growth became the very priority of the energy of the policy agenda. And after 2006, that was a watershed for the development of China's energy efficiency governance. At that time, China had already become a net energy importer. So the increasing dependence on foreign energy and the increasing pressure from the international climate negotiation have made China to make a very ambitious goal for the energy intensity reduction for the 11th five-year plan. And 2006 was the first year of China's 11th five-year plan. China made the target of 20% of this reduction, and to implement this 20% of very bold ambition, China implemented EETRS, which is Energy Efficiency Target Responsibility System, to meet this target. That is to bundle the local cadres' political promotion with the performance in energy efficiency. We see clearly that before 2000, China's system in energy efficiency was quite centralized. The State Council gave the targets and gave guidance to different ministries, that is, to take care of different sectors of industries. And after 2000, the State Council will decompose the target directly to the local governments, to provincial governments. So the responsibility of energy efficiency realization has been decentralized from the central government to local governments. And in India, we see the BEE, which is the Bureau for Energy Efficiency. It positions itself as a market regulator and administrator, so it directly deal with the market players of energy efficiency. We don't see significant role of local governments in this picture. So now we see the key difference of the divergence of China and India's energy efficiency governance is not about whether we put emphasis on the market that a lot of people have been arguing about. It's actually about whether it is central or the local government become the major responsibility body of energy efficiency realization. And these different arrangements, institutional arrangements, is actually deeply rooted in their political economy. And so we see that in energy efficiency and broader low carbon development areas, although it's a new task and it requires new methods to deal with, but both countries tend to adapt into their existing systems, and this adapting process sometimes reinforces the political economy of China and India, the advantage and as well as the disadvantages. In field work, I see, for example, in China, the disadvantage of this existing political economy, such as data manipulation, rent-seeking, bad money drives out good, has already happened immensely in the area of energy efficiency and the broader low-carbon development areas. In 2011, Professor Pelin published a book and argued that climate change adaptation could be a window opportunity for the society to transform its existing social relationship. So low-carbon development could be a window opportunity for China and India to transform its current social inequality and the obstacles of these political economies. But this goodwill has not been realized in China and India when we look onto the ground to the details of the policies and the grassroots reactions. So how to address this common challenge and to make it opportunity to transform the society and to make a smooth transition into low-carbon development of this 40% of the world's population. It's still one of the most challenging issues faced by policymakers, researchers, and the public. And I hope my research can make a small contribution to this. Thanks very much for your attention.
I think we only have time for one quick question. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, please. Go ahead.
Really talk, Yuge. Can I ask a question about, you talk about adaptation, and on the international level, people also talk about mitigation as well. And China last year, end of 2013, talking about the national strategy for climate change adaptation. So I'm just wondering, what's the status of the integration between mitigation and adaptation on a national policy making level in China and India? Are they talking about this, or they're just like, they're putting a lot of political rhetoric, and nothing has been done, but actually, how they are actually tackling this issue, I mean, integration?
Maybe a very short answer to that. Sorry.
Okay, yes. Yes, both countries are talking about these issues, but I have to say, in both countries, it's not very high in the priority of the policy agenda. For example, in India, now we see this one of the largest. It is the largest election going on earth in India, and we see a lot of debates on corruption, on health, on education, on water, but very, very little discussion about environment, about energy efficiency, about climate change. But actually a huge amount of people and environment has been is suffering from this lack of attention. So as researchers, we need to bring more, raise more awareness and bring more discussion in the public sphere. Did I brief enough?
So thank you. So.